Hello, Texans. I'm Susana, and this is the Susana Gibb Show. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. On this podcast, we focus on Texas people, the hows, the whys, idealists, entrepreneurs. I always think it's fun to talk to people about their passion and how they're doing it, because some days it is not easy. This podcast is sponsored by Gibb Insurance Services. For 27 years, we have been serving Texas families and businesses. We were super excited earlier this year. Technically, it was last year. We got voted Best in DFW, which was an honor and a total surprise. We weren't expecting it, but we were very proud. And we'll end this podcast with an insurance tip so you can leave this world. Maybe not this world, for heaven's sakes. Leave this podcast a little bit smarter. And now, on that note, on with the show.
On a podcast with me today, you guys are in for a treat, because if you've been listening to the show, you are familiar with the lovely Sharonda Green from Lens and Eye Investigation. So welcome back.
Thank you.
So many people talk to me about your explanation of dark web after that podcast, like how you explained it, what it was. And in some ways, I feel like your explanation of it made it both less scary and more scary to me, because before it was like, oh, I don't really understand that, but I know it's bad. And now after you explained it, I'm worried about it all the time now.
Don't worry about it. Educate yourself on it. That's the best way I can explain it to you. Educate yourself. Again, if you're going to try it, if anyone out there is going to try it, do not try it from your own laptop. Do not try it from your home desktop. Do not try it from your cell phone. Get some type of old laptop that none of your information is on, completely wiped clean, and use it on the internet that is not connected to your home. Maybe go to the cafe or something. But do not put any of your personal information. If you have to pay with anything with a credit card, go out and get a Visa card that is not connected to your name or your social.
No, it just seems like one of those things. Like, I'm going to accidentally get on there somehow, and I'm like a little bunny, and a gigantic dinosaur's like, oh, I'm going to get you.
You will not accidentally get on there. If you get on the dark web, you chose to be on the dark web because you literally have to go. So
yeah, I'm not. It's one of those, it's completely irrational, but I'm like, what happens if I get on the dark web? They're going to come find me. They're going to come get me.
They will get your information being on the dark web. Just like you can see them, they can see you. Remember that.
Yeah, that's frightening. So what else have you been up to lately? Have you been working on fun cases?
I've been doing a lot of things. The cases have been coming in, of course. I personally don't do an infidelity, but we have a few of those. I have a case right now where the individual has been missing 15 years. And I tried to look for him through his deceased father, who actually has activity on his Social Security. So either he's not deceased or someone's using the security. He has a brother that is supposed to be dead. There's a lot of activity on the dead brother's Social Security. So it's either him using them to go through life or someone is using them. However, I did find them.
Interesting. Do people die because they're trying to escape death, criminal prosecution?
Do people die for what?
Well, die. Like when they're like, oh, I'm missing, so I'm like, they pretend, they make it look like they're dead, so nobody can find them.
Some people just do it because they don't want to deal with family. They want to escape whatever reality world that they have and make their own world. So I don't know, but somebody's using the identity of these dead people. Because
have you ever talked to, like, will you talk to this guy? Like, if you find him, will you be like, hey, listen, we've had people that are looking for you. Have you had to have those conversations before?
Oh, yeah. Just, you want to make it an interesting conversation, such as, why are you calling? Why are you looking for him? Right now, this one that I'm looking for, he has an inheritance. They have a house that they split, and they can't sell the house without him, so they need him. So we have to find him in order to get the house sold.
Oh, yeah, he's going to take that call.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. He's going to want me to find him. Some people want you to find them, just to know that part.
So the
Yeah.
people that don't want to be found, do they ever say why? Like the moms or the dads that walked out years and years ago and then they
Mhm.
never contact them and they have a whole new family and everything? Do they ever just they just try and forget it?
Yeah,
What
they
do they
tell you
say?
they'll tell you don't call them again, and if so, they'll press charges. They don't want to be contacted. They don't want the information to go to those folks. They don't want their information out there. They hate that I find them, but I have to oblige. Even though the client is paying me to find someone, I can say I did locate, but I can't give you the information.
You can't give the client the information at that point?
No, because the person that I found has already stressed that they don't want the information given. So now, if I
Oh.
give that information and this family takes that information and go over there and harm that individual, who's responsible?
Oh. That's messy, Sharonda.
That is very messy. Welcome to the world of PI. I don't want to go to jail. I am not the jail type. I don't want to be in there. I don't want to sit in there. I don't want to see it.
No.
So I try to dot my I's 3 times and cross the T's. Yeah. So other than that, I have been up to a lot of things. We was hosting our back to school event last year for Lindsay and I investigation. Our very first one, we had the DEA, we had the local law enforcement, fire department, and the local counselors, and it was very much information. So it was so informative that a lot of parents was asking where we're going to do it every year. And at first I wasn't until I kept getting calls or getting emails about being able to host or people want to sponsor the next year event, not even knowing if I was going to do the next year event.
Mhm.
So I kind of contemplated on it for a little while. In the meantime, while I contemplated on it, I actually took the Citizen Police Academy over here and with the local law enforcement. And I graduated class 59, that's what it was, in October. So I finally finished that class, but I learned a lot of things in that class. And they had a hoot that I was a PI in their class. So we kind of
I'm sure
laughed.
they were like, they wanted you to tell them stories.
Everybody wants me to tell them the story. Everybody, even the police, everybody wants me to tell them the story. So, but I'm glad I took the class because I get more help now when I do process serving, because that's one of the benefits that we do here at Lindsay and I Investigation. However, during the class, I learned about a wellness program that they have with the homeless. And one of the stories that we were being told was that they had one homeless guy that went through the steps of getting clean and getting to his apartment. And they say he went to look at the apartment, got the keys to the apartment, and never came back to the apartment. And most of them do that. And it's like, what is the big deal about not wanting to stay? And if you think about it, psychologically, when you go to this 4-wall room, who's there with you? No one. When you're on the streets, the police hold your hand to get to counseling, right? When you're in counseling, you have all the people in counseling that hold your hand to get you through the process of counseling. Now you have your apartment and it's just you and these 4 walls. Who's holding your hand at that point? So I see the 90% turnaround that they got. In the midst of all of that and thinking about the back to school and my daughter, who is a psychologist, we came up with a new company called LEI Community Outreach for life coaching, which is something my daughter loves to do. And so now...
So would she then life coach some of these homeless people, for example?
She is the health and wellness. She is the health and wellness director over at the LEI Community Outreach, and she has little ponds under her. Everyone has their own specific category in the outreach. So she's health and wellness. You have people that are career development, for people who, again, it's life coaching,
Right.
who are just stuck don't know where to go and don't want to move. Some people don't need counseling. Some people just want somebody to show them a different path and show them a different way and show them a different outlook, And so another thing that she touched on was suicide and pride. So that's another particular thing that she's working with on bringing down the suicide rate in the prior community. being able to have somebody to talk to like a friend. So a lot of her stories with her is she didn't want to come across as a therapist. She wanted to be more of a friend to get them to therapy. So that's what we.
So she's not going to do the therapy part. She's not going to dig back. She's going to help build up.
She's going to help build up, get them focused, give them direction, and get them used to talking, so that she can send them over to Counseling Institute of Texas. That's what it is. They are a grant-funded program, and you get 13 weeks of free counseling. Yep. So she builds them up to get them prepared to talk to counselors. That's what she does.
Interesting.
I know, right? That's what I say. Wow. So now we're going to throw the back-to-school events on LEI Community Outreach because they're more equipped for it. We supply the information from the DEA, from the local law enforcement. We do our part with information. All of the other thing that goes on with foundations and outreaches and events and all that stuff, that'll all be over there.
And the nonprofits and the fundraising, etc. Yes.
And there you go. I can do PI stuff. So I'm looking forward to the collaboration. I'm looking forward to watching it grow. I'm looking forward to watching us grow, watching them grow. I'm just looking for all of it to work together and just be that resource for the community that's needed. That's what I'm looking for.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you are very passionate about the community outreach, which it can become its own job. And you have a job, which is the challenge. And the need is so intense. It's hard to say, wait, I have to stop. I can't. This is as much as I can give when you see that there's so much more needed. It's hard to say no.
You know how I stop button. That's my problem. I think and everyone says, I'm just gonna pause for a love life. I've had it 20 years with my children's father when I was married. I'm good. It's okay. There. I'll wait till I'm 60. Right now, I just, like you just said, there's so much to give. And I tell people in this industry of private eye, we have a lot to give to the community. And I don't understand why most of us don't feel the way I feel. I'm driven by the fact that we have access to so many resources and so many things that the average person do not. And we can help with these resources. We can actually give this information from the resources that we have. And I don't understand why a lot of people just don't be in the community just trying to help. I don't understand it. Me, I try to do the best I can with the information.
Have you always been like that?
Yeah. My ex-husband used to always tell me, you can't save the world, right? And my response would always be, nobody told me I couldn't try. So that's just me. I'm that person. I would give you the shirt off my back with no problem. I've always been that person. So,
well, there's a link to, it feels good when you give. Like there's a brain reward when you are doing good. And I think, I'm not saying that you do it for the brain reward, but it's like to your point of why don't more people give and have that outreach? Like it actually feels good. There's a reward system for doing it.
I sleep good at night knowing that I did what I was supposed to do. I pray that I've done everything I'm supposed to do. But what I don't understand in the industry of private eye is, I am looked at as, you're not in the business to make money. Of course I'm in the business to make money. But Miss Sally over there who needs help can't afford $2,300 an hour. However, this big old manufacturing company over here can. So you have to weigh your options. You can't just, and it's like, but you don't want to help because she doesn't have enough. But then over here, you're robbing them blind, and you can use some of that to help her. But you refuse to help her because it's all about the money at the end of the day. I learned a long time ago, the more you give, the more you reap. And that is the truest thing, because my business isn't hurting. I don't charge as much as everyone else, but my business, I bet you is doing better than most.
Well, you are a positive force, and I love that you're a positive force for good. So thank you for all that you're doing. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they find you?
So they can always come. Always, you can Google me. Let's start there. I am Googleable. So we can start there. But you can always call me on the toll-free number 844-448-2738 for investigations or wherever the source may be. I am definitely with the manufacturing companies in all aspects. I do anything from background checks on CFOs, CEOs, little bitty starter packages, people, the personnel, all of it. I do drug and alcohol testing on everyone. We come on site whenever there's an accident because we know some people are intoxicated at work. So we do come on site. We also guard you from the people that are there to harm you. So you can have unarmed guards, you can have armed guards, or you can have private guards that don't nobody even know about. And if you need a PI in there, we can do that too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You are
So
welcome.
I have a question for you, and this is going to tie into our insurance tip.
Okay.
And we're going to come back to that in a second. Sharonda, we're back. So have you ever had to investigate roofers?
Roofers. Oh my God. They're the most
Yes.
interesting ones. Yes, I have a few contractors.
Yes.
What? Hmm?
So apparently they're not licensed in the state of Texas. It's not
Right.
required, right?
Mhm. Right.
And that I just learned this from a roofer friend of mine, because of course we work with roofers all day long because we're in insurance.
Right.
That if my client pays the roofer fixed the house, everything's great, but then months later, the supply house can put a lien on my client's house because the roofer didn't pay them. Have you heard that before?
Say that. Okay, so say that again. The roofer did the house.
The roofer, he fixes the house.
Okay.
Everything's great. The client thinks everything's great.
Okay.
Months later, the supply house puts a lien on my client's house because the roofer didn't pay the supply house bill.
How was the supplies
Yes.
anything to do with? So the roofer put everything on the house and not him.
So the roofer
Which
goes
is
to the supply
illegal.
house and buys all the materials.
Right, I understand.
For-
That's illegal though, because she didn't purchase the equipment. He did. So why
Don't
is the
know.
roofer using the house as the payee?
Well, exactly. Those are the unscrupulous roofers in Texas. You got to watch
Really?
out for, apparently.
Yes, you do. You definitely do. Wow.
Yeah, got to know who your roofer is when you're going through. Got to
Mhm.
ask Sharonda, should I use this
Yeah.
roofer or no?
Mm-hmm. I'll let you know how many lawsuits and liens and bankruptcies and how many all of that out there. I definitely can do that one.
Yeah, I bet that one's an easy one.
Yeah, I will.
Well, thank you so
Oh
much.
my God, I will be. I will
I know,
hate that.
right? Or then you
We-
go to sell the house and the title company's like,
Well,
hey,
because you wouldn't even know.
no, you wouldn't even know.
You like no.
Sneak a deek.
Yeah, they can call me. I can find out about the roofer before you hire a roofer. Call me before you
There
go.
you
on the
go.
street, call me. I find out. Call me.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the podcast, but don't go anywhere because I want to talk to you some more. Thanks so much.
Because we
Good.
stopped and I pulled Sharonda back in because she's just explaining to me a 4-person tale, and that's where we're going to pick it up. So go back. All right.
Okay, so like I said, it's never a one person. When you're following someone, it's never one person. And I know I probably shouldn't be giving you all this trick, but it's true. It's never one person. It's either 2, 3, or 4. If you have someone that is consistently back and forth from home to shopping, home to mother's, they're consistent. And so you probably want a 2, maybe a 3, maybe. But a 2 would be good for something like that. But if you have someone who's never home, which means they're always out, that means you're consistently hopping. That's either 3 or 4. That's never a 2. Because 1 is you always need someone in front and you always need someone in back. So the one in back is going to follow, and everyone has radios. The one in back is going to follow. If for any reason the vehicle starts to veer and feels that this truck is following them, you have to lean back. So now they figured out you following them. and they're going to pass up the one that's in front of them, who is now going to follow him.
Mhm.
And now we're going to radio in the third car to get in front, because that first car has been identified. So we can no longer use him. So you have to always keep someone in the front of, you have to always keep someone in the front to make sure that if you identify, someone can pick it up.
What happens if they turn and the front car is no longer in front anymore?
The radio will get off at the next and will follow through.
And so
And you still got one car.
a different car becomes the first car.
Mhm. Every time.
And then you have to trade off, like, what if they go into like a grocery store? One person goes in to follow and the other person stays in the side.
That is exactly it. But there's always 2, 3, or 4 that's following you. Depends on who the person is, how active the person
Interesting.
is. Yeah, it's never just one. People always think it's just one. Oh, I think somebody's following me. Oh, I lost them. And then the next time it's on you, it's following you too. So they never think about that. But that's exactly how it works. PIs are going to kill me everywhere. They're like, why is she telling the secret? But that's how it works. So, because when I get paranoid, that's exactly what I think about. I'm like, okay, let me turn down this dark alley real quick. Let me see how many cars are going to come down here. You know, that's me. I'd rather go the other way. I'd rather turn down the street, come back out, go back the other way, to come back up the long way to make sure no one's following me. I don't know. That's just me, because I'm in the industry. So I know how it works. I don't know. I don't know who's mad at me. Somebody could be mad at me. I don't know. I'm in an industry where everybody gets mad at me. Somebody could be mad at some of my workers. I don't know. So I just try to stay cautious with
All right.
it.
Well, the next time I tail somebody, I know I've got to have more people. Like, I don't tail people. Mostly I'm like, get out of my way. I need all of you off the road. I don't want to follow you anymore. All right, Sharonda, I'm stopping it. I am. For real.
It's so funny because when we did this podcast, we stopped and Sharonda and I are talking and she starts telling me about tailing people. I was like, oh my God, stop. We have to, like, I'm going to start it again so we can come back and you can finish telling me this story. And she was like, man, I don't know that I should be telling you this story, but super fun. And now our insurance tip of the week. If you tuned in last week, you know that I was in a pretty good accident on 635 where I felt very grateful to not be in a worse accident on 635, especially the part of 635 that I was on. It's so busy. And I ended up crossing from the far right lane to the far left lane, which is hard enough to do when you can see what's going on versus when you're being propelled because somebody hit you from behind. So your insurance tip of the week, if you were in a car accident and your car is totaled, from the time that they total your car, if you have rental coverage, they're not going to just extend rental coverage forever. So many carriers give you 7 more days of rental coverage and then they're like cutting it off, which in most cases should be fine. You know your car is totaled, but between picking out a new car and getting it ordered and waiting for it to arrive, which is a total first world problem, you might end up paying for a few days of your rental. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Please go to gibbagencydallas.com to connect with us. We love to hear from you. You can also see all kinds of things from past guests to blogs to, hey, maybe you can call us for a quote. All right. Have a good day. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.